Welcome everyone. So for the last 3 years we've been working with the UN Refugee Agency to build social cohesion in KZN and Gauteng. And so we've come together today to have an opportunity to reflect on what's worked in this time, on what's not worked, and to share some of the lessons that we've learned and how we would like to move forward. So maybe to start us off, it would be good to talk a little bit about what social cohesion means to us and how we understand it.
For my understanding and the experience, and for my experiences, working with social cohesion, it's about people. It's about uniting people, binding people in one, and to remove the exclusion, being marginalized in the communities, and promote social change within the people.
When I talk about social cohesion from my point of view, it starts from different levels. Like, for example, I started interacting with people from a very early age, and you could see that kids from a very, very early age, at 7 or 8, they already knew about how to discriminate against non-South African students and stuff like that.
Social cohesion is all about putting people together. People must be or have a space to talk to each other, to get to know each other and understand each other, because we were created to live in a community where we have common goals, common problems, common challenges, and common need. If we don't sit together, we won't know each other, we will fear each other. But once people are together, we're building social cohesion that way. We get to understand each other and to see how we can cohesively work together.
It can easily become a sort of a project on friend making. And I think that if it's approached in a way of like everyone must be friends before anyone can be together or to function, then it sets a very difficult task. So through the project, I learned that social cohesion is not necessarily friendship making, but putting a platform or a space whereby people can recognize the humanity within each other and realize that through that humanity, then we can function as a society, that we need each other.
How would you say we have helped to build social cohesion in a very practical way? What are some of the tools that we've used that you think have worked and that have helped to contribute to that in our communities and in our context of Durban?
We saw that people were divided and conflicting, so we needed to create some spaces around how do people talk about that conflict and get some resolution, how to build commonality, and then how to kind of start thinking about the structures.
Dialogue have been one of the tools that we really use to put people together, that allow people to have a conversation, to engage each other, and it really worked well. When we sit together, people get to listen to each other and to try to understand. So
I think to go down a level, that if you don't create a safe space, if there's not a perception of integrity, then you're wasting your time. And you might find the people that participate have ulterior motives, maybe to be disruptive or not. So I think one of the greatest things that we realized and noticed was there was a credibility attached. And one of the reasons, for instance, would be because it was under the United Nations banner. I mean, it's interesting, we found people from very diverse cultural and religious groups coming when it wasn't necessarily their opportunity to participate, but they were coming because of a sense of safety, a sense of security, and a sense of authenticity.
Dialogue was a really potent tool, but my favorite was participatory photography workshops, because as much as the dynamics of refugees and race was in it, the center of it was learning photography skills. And what you then see in the workshop is not necessarily sort of this on-the-nose conflict resolution of like, you're refugee and I'm local, so let's get together, but more it became about how do we learn together to take photos. People sort of left their labels of nationality and race because they were all working towards this one thing of like, we have an exhibition to do and we're here to help each other. So I really enjoyed participatory photography workshops.
So I'm almost hearing a common theme around the sharing of stories. So dialogue allows you to share stories, photography allows you to share stories, counseling allows you to share stories, radio. And I think there's such a power in that. If you can share your story safely, whoever's hearing your story will resonate, something common will resonate, either my pain or my dream or my aspirations in life. That's perhaps one of the keys to going forward, is how do we use story and how do we value each one's story.
I'd like us to pick up on something that was mentioned a little bit earlier, where we were talking about dialogues. We said it's a place to have uncomfortable conversations in safe spaces. And this notion of safe spaces, it applies to all the work that we do.
For my experience working in dialogues, first, it was my first time being with foreigners here, because I didn't understand why they are here in South Africa. But after I've heard their stories, not like they like to be here in South Africa or they're in vacation here in South Africa. There are wars in their own countries. There's something that pulls them here in South Africa. And I also had those judgments towards them that they're here to fill jobs and they are the ones who come or kill people and everything. But with the skills that I have, that I get it from social worker, I was able to understand the diversity among us, to not judge them, to listen to them.
Yeah, there are a few questions that you have to answer by yourself when you are trying to create a safe space. The first one is where these people are going to meet. Remember, we are dealing with people from different backgrounds. There are people that you can invite in this location and they will never come there. So you need to look at a place where everybody will feel comfortable in it. Second, you need also to look at, to ask yourself this question: what are we going to talk about? The content or the topic of your dialogue, and to build on it, to design a topic that each and every person will feel like I want to participate. People are not used to conversation or dialogue. They always compare it as a debate. At the end of the day, we gather people who are there to listen to each other.
And Casa, as a participant at the radio workshops, how did you find that in terms of safe spaces? What made you feel safe?
First of all, they started off with icebreakers, and I feel as if the icebreakers really made it so much easier for us to get to and know each other and to just calm down, because with a lot of us, some of them knew each other. I didn't know anyone there except for one of my friends who actually invited me there, and you don't really know what's gonna happen. So we were able as participants to actually give our views and be open, and then the facilitator was able to guide us through.
Okay, I'd like us to change tack a little bit. And as we know, because we do this work, it can be hard at times, it can be draining, it can be quite emotionally taxing. And so how we care for ourselves and how we keep our compassion levels up is very important, and how we energize and refresh ourselves.
I think it's a really big question. Where do we draw boundary lines? How do we look after ourselves? How do we, at the end of the day, when we know someone is in pain, how do we go home and have a party and be with our kids? How do we do that? It's a really, really big question. And if we don't think about it, because this is a long thing, you were speaking about, this is not a 1 year thing that we're doing. How do we pace ourselves for that journey? And how do we build these things into our programmatic approach? And how do we get funding for it? It's a big question.
So, you hear some horrific stories, and it's very difficult not to carry some of those. And then you think you've heard the worst thing, and then a few days later you hear something else and you think, I've never heard anything that bad, and it never stops.
The way we debrief, we do the debrief or self-care is an informal way. Like in our team, we just like to sit together, lunchtime. It helps us a little bit to share what we are going through. Yeah, because it's a lot, and there's no way to run away. It's become our calling.
Sounds like stuff was hard, some stuff was amazing. What do you think? Is this work worth it?
Yes, I think it's absolutely worth it. As we're talking, I have so many names and faces going through my head as I'm reflecting on all of the stuff that we did. I think that what we are doing is building towards something bigger. And I think that that we can't know the impact of what we do, but it really does matter. And personally, I'm completely committed to it.
It became very valuable to me when somebody would come back and be like, you know, what you said in that session means something, because a lot of the times it felt like it didn't, but you would see that someone's ideology has changed, or their position on a particular specific thing had changed.
And there are those moments and times when you think, gosh, this has been worth it. And it makes you feel this really is more important than just a job function. We started off with a group of men that were fearful, angry, very closed, very wary, and after 6 weeks, we had these men hugging us and leaving with hope. And honestly, you can see the transition in people when hope arrives in whatever form or however that happens, and it's always so different.